Hope you are good. I wanted to start actually with Manchester City and the news about Wirtz. According to Plattenberg, it looks as though it's going LB to be Bayern Munich he chooses and not Man City. Where a couple of weeks ago it felt like City were in the driving seat. What's your thoughts on this news that's come out this afternoon?
I don't think it's anything serious. This, in my opinion, at the moment. We all know that Wirtz's family want him to stay in Germany. that's been clear for quite some time, and he's just reaffirmed that. That's all he's really said, is that his family want him to stay in Germany and want him to go to Bayern Munich. The thing is, Leverkusen don't want to sell him to Bayern Munich. They don't want to do that for obvious reasons. Yeah, I mean, they want to sell him to City or Madrid. Now, I don't think Madrid are going to get Wirtz. I don't really think that's serious. I think it's between City and Bayern Munich. And I still think we've got a pretty good chance. Obviously, when you're hearing that his family wants him to stay in Germany, that's obviously going to make the challenge more difficult, because you're now fighting against his family to sign him. But nah, I don't know, man. I don't think what's come out today is that big a deal. I just think it just reaffirms what we already know, that it's going to be tricky for City to sign him, because his family's in his ear saying, stay in Germany, stay in Germany. You got the World Cup as well next year. I think, his family are probably telling him, do you really want to go to a new country, a new league a year before the World Cup? Yeah, I mean, maybe stay in Germany just before that. So I think City have got like a challenge. I definitely think that probably at this moment in time, maybe buying a favourites to sign him just because of, the logistics of it. But I don't think City have given up. I think City are right there. And I don't really think this is anything new. This is just telling us that his family want him to stay in Germany, which we already knew anyway. So we'll see, man. We'll see, because obviously Leverkusen, if they're going to sell it to Bayern, it's not a good look, really, that for Leverkusen, is it? Yeah, I mean, you just won the league last year. You finished second this year, and then you send your best player to the guys who just won it. Not ideal, really. So you can see why they want him to go to City. Let's see what happens, man. But listen, we're still there. We're still fighting for his signature. I think we've still got a decent chance, man. But obviously, it's going to be tricky. If we don't get him, then, geez, I don't know what we do then. Someone said, I did a stream, someone said Odegaard. I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. Oh, Odegaard. The guy's got 4 assists. No, you're all right. Better off playing Edison as a creative midfielder. Honestly, I don't know what happens if we don't get Wirtz, man. I don't know what we do in that situation, innit? But I don't think this news is too big. I think it's just everything we've already heard, bro.
What do you think? Do you think, Con? Do you feel like maybe LB's playing it down a little bit? Is this more, if he's the number one target? One, it's hard to get a top-class German out of Germany. It's hard to stop him going Bayern Munich. The family are pushing for him to stay. How do you think City are going to get on with this?
City always end up finding someone. Like, they always end up getting that deal done and over the line. I'm actually quite surprised that he has chosen Bayern over. If that is the case, Bayern over City. I get the family thing, wanted him to stay in Germany. But if you look at it, will he be a rotational 10 with Musiala? How is that going to work? Is Musiala going to want to leave because Wirtz is joining? Would that mean Musiala maybe end up at Man City? I don't know. But in a case of the fact that he wants to go to Bayern, does confuse me. I mean, doesn't really confuse me too much. It's the biggest club in Germany. But in a sense of that they've already got Musiala in there. We know how fantastic he is. Does he want to go ahead and play a role where he might have to rotate with him? Maybe he'll have to start on the bench. I don't know. I thought Man City made sense. But, of course, if the family are out here saying, no, stay in Germany, and LB does have a point, the World Cup is coming up. Will it make sense for him to stay in Germany where he's used to the league? He can still get the numbers. He may not get the numbers in the English league. We don't know. So that probably would make sense to guarantee himself a spot in the German squad or even the starting 11 for the next World Cup. I think if he chooses the decision to go to Bayern, interesting. But it's the factor of will he start? Will he be rotational with Musiala?
He'd definitely start. He'd play with Musiala. If you look at Germany with Nagelsmann, they often play with Musiala and Wirtz. So I think if he goes Bayern, and let's be honest, most of the games in the Bundesliga, they're dominating the ball, so it's not going to be an issue. Yeah. So I think that I think they're just playing both. They ain't going to spend 120 mil to be a rotational player, are they? You know what I
mean? Germany are going to push for it as well, aren't they? If they're playing together regularly for Germany, as in the German FA or whatever they're referred to as in over there in Krautland, like they're going to push for this deal to happen as well, because if they work together regularly and have great chemistry at club level, they're just going to go into the national team and have that same chemistry. So that's what you're fighting against. And I'm probably going to misspeak slightly on this, but I always feel like the German football pyramid is set up so that the German national team can be at its strongest, which is why there always seems to be no real backlash about Bayern Munich just simply being able to take other people's players. There is no desire to change the model of how the clubs are run, and essentially with the way they operate their clubs is it's almost impossible to catch Bayern Munich financially, because if other teams are growing because the league's getting more popular and other teams are getting better, it's only going to generate more income for Bayern Munich. It's almost their model is, again, I don't, as LB knows, I don't believe that any owner should just be able to come in and spend whatever they want from day one. There has to be checks and balances and have to protect these teams. But in England, you look at Nottingham Forest as an example of where they were. I don't know if a German team following their model of ownership could get to the position that Forest have been in the last 5 or 6 years. I don't know how plausible it is. We obviously saw Leipzig do something, but they're despised by German football. So that's what City are fighting against here. It's the pyramid of German football as well as the family and everything else. Yep. Question for me, is Phil Foden, though, not the heir to the throne of KDB? Should it not be more Gibbs White-esque players you go for, with Phil Foden now being the main creative hub and the main midfielder for you in that regard?
Nah, because Phil Foden, that's not really...
Would you want him as the 10, LB? Would you want him as your future 10?
Foden?
Yeah, there's no way, right?
Nah, not really, man.
Isn't he better off the wing? I don't see all this 10 Foden stuff. I feel like it's all nonsense.
I just think that, like, if you're losing Kevin De Bruyne, you need to go and get an out-and-out creator, a passer. Yeah, Foden's more of a second striker for me, like right behind the striker, playing off him and shooting, not really creating. You know what I mean? He can also play deep and carry it, but I don't think that's really Foden's game, is like the creative side. His game is like scoring goals, you know what I mean? So that for me is where Foden's game lies. Probably off the right, Wirtz in the middle, Marmoush off the left is what I would sort of see our lineup potentially being next year. So and there's no guarantee Foden will be in the starting 11 next year, with the way that he's played this year. He needs to pick up his game, doesn't he? So now we definitely need to go into the market, man. Now, obviously, if it's not Wirtz, I don't know what you do at that point, because there's not really many players on the market, is there? I was speaking this morning on my channel. I was saying, maybe for me, if you can't get Wirtz, maybe you get sort of like another 8. Maybe you try and get Tijani Reinders out of AC Milan. I know he's just signed a new contract, but if you put 75 million down, I'm sure that'd get them interested. Do you try and get him and Gibbs White rather than... Because the thing is, if you don't get Wirtz, who are you getting? I mean, I'd love to go and get Palmer, but it's going to be tricky to get Palmer out of Chelsea. He's got 6 years left on his contract. So if you don't get Palmer, who's Simmons? Do you rate Simmons like that?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, replacing KDB is one of the hardest things your club has ever had to do in its history. I know you had that 60s team with Summerby and co, but replacing your club's greatest ever players, it doesn't happen regularly, because your greatest player is your greatest player. And no club really in England has ever gone from, okay, this midfielder is our greatest, and then the replacement becomes better and better and better. You may have peaked. Like, this is genuinely, you may not see a better midfielder than KDB for the rest of your life, and that's not a dig. It's the reality of the situation, and it's finding that solution. And I think Gibbs White's a good signing, but I don't believe he's anywhere near KDB's level. I think he is a category or 2 below it. As you say, Musiala and Wirtz are the 2 names that stand out. I agree with you, by the way, on Foden. I'm asking the question to get your view on it. What I find worrying about Foden, he's had some great seasons for you, is that every time... I remember when David Silva was leaving and you were linked to replacements, and I said, well, I thought Foden was the guy. And I remember then, no, he's more of a winger, Terry. And then you started signing more wingers. And I said, well, if you're signing more wingers, then Foden can't be the number one guy. Terry, you're an idiot. He plays more central. He's going to be the David Silva replacement. And then David Silva left. And that's my only kind of worry for Phil Foden at City, is it doesn't seem that the positions that you need players in, it doesn't seem like he is the right fit. I know he can play second striker, but he never seems to have a fixed position anymore. And I don't know, maybe cashing in on him and investing that money in a different type of player would help. Maybe because he's not one of your wingers. You
We're
can't
not
be.
gonna,
You need creative players. Is that not an option if his form doesn't improve?
no, we're not going to cash in on him after one season. He just won the Player of the Year, so he does need to get back onto form because he's not been good enough this year. Far from it. But now Phil Foden, when he's on it, man, it's a tremendous player to have because he can play anywhere. By the way, being that good can actually hurt you at times, isn't it? Because you don't nail down a specific sort of spot in the team. He's constantly being moved, false nine, left wing, right wing, attacking midfielder. So I don't think so, man. I think Pep's doing the right thing, leaving him out of the team. He's not started, I think, the last 4 games. He's not started a single game. I think just leave him out of the team now. I just leave him out of the team until the new season, and then just get him back in the new season and just see what happens in it. But he's got to perform. If he doesn't perform next year, then he's not going to be in the team. He's not going to be playing. Then he's not going to play for England. So it's up to Phil Foden to get himself back on it, man. But I reckon give him this rest that he needs and then see what happens next year. But it's a big year for Phil Foden next year. He's got to perform, man. 100%.